Hello everyone, Ilia Laporev here, and today we're going to do a study on gruppetto. But what is a gruppetto? Sometimes in music scores we can find a side turned S, so a letter S. This we can find in music like Haydn Concerto or in the Articulation Sonata by Schubert, Breval Sonata, and so on. So that S turn, also known as gruppetto, appears as a sideways S above the stuff. The turn, based on its orientation, signifies playing the note above or below the primary note itself, the note above or below the turn note, and then the primary note itself again. That's quite a strange explanation, right? I have to confess, I stole this from Wikipedia, so not the best source ever. Anyways, I will show you a little passage of the Haydn Concerto. I will play that one part without the gruppetto, so without that S turn, and then I will play the same passage with that gruppetto. So did you hear a difference? So that one part, right? So that was without the gruppetto. Now we're gonna do it with the gruppetto. So that was a gruppetto. In other musical terms, it would be a sort of ornament, right? So today we're going to develop this gruppetto with an exercise by Louis Feuillard, Studies of the Young Cellist, and today's turn is gonna be the number 35, which is a study for the gruppetto. Before we dive right into the exercise, if you're new here on this channel, if you're liking my content, and if you're searching for cello technique tutorials or some ideas, tips and tricks, well, this is what I do on this channel. If this is what you're looking for, then consider to subscribe. Well, with that said, let's do this. At the first glance, this is not a very difficult study, especially for advanced cellists. But as usual, I always can take a couple of things out of this study on what we need to pay attention. Alright, this is a study for the left hand, but there is also a very important thing that I want to mention. Actually, not one thing, but I need to mention for the right hand. It's a small thing, but it's actually quite important, and that is the amount of bow that we are going to use for this exercise. So how much bow, so the amount of bow, are we going to use for this study? As this is a pretty fast study, I highly recommend that you use a more compact, somehow controlled bow. So that means not too much bow. So I'm gonna show you two examples. One example when we use a whole amount of bow, and the other example when we are more controlled and we use less bow, so more focused. The difference is really huge. Did you hear the difference? That's why you want to keep this in mind, because your sound also will be so different. And besides, the study, it's all in piano, and if you see the marking on the score, it's written a letter M. What means M? If you're following my series of the Feuillard Studies of the Young Cellist, then probably until now you might know what the letter M means. But if you're new here, letter M means middle of the bow. Okay, that was it for the right hand. As I told you, it's a very small thing, but crucial, very important. because depending on the amount of bow you're gonna use, or either you can level up the exercise or either you can make it worse. But okay, anyway, enough blah blah blah. Let's go right into the left hand, see what we have over here. Gruppettos are usually played in a faster tempo, like here in this exercise. So what is important here? Finger agility. For a better and clearer picture about finger agility, I have nice videos on my YouTube channel where I explain and teach about finger agility and where I go quite into detail. So you definitely want to check them out. But anyway, let's work today a little bit on the finger agility and how we can get clean, regular and accurate fingers. So right now, I'm gonna show you how I develop this step by step. So I suggest you to watch this section a couple of times so you can see the way how I practice, and maybe you can apply it as well when you are practicing. So you can kind of copy paste my ideas. Right, okay, let's say I'm playing it with ease, right? But let's say that you're a beginner or you're playing the cello as a hobby and you're not so advanced as I am. Let's say that you have quite soft fingers, so you will get this. So that's the first thing that I want to say. Finger articulation, so left hand articulation is very important. As I usually say, when we don't have a good left hand articulation, what happens? Then we don't have a good precision. And when we don't have a good precision, then we have a bad intonation. And bad intonation means bad. So there are ways that I practice for the finger articulation, which are rhythmical patterns, rhythmical variations. So these are things that you can develop by yourself. Maybe you don't know exactly what I mean, but let me show you so you have a better picture of it. So these were rhythmical variations. Also, what I like to do is to do bits by bits. So take a look. And so on. I hope that this gave you a clearer picture and made total sense to you. This way of practicing, I suggest you to do as well. So what I just showed, apply this to yourself. Maybe it is a little bit systematically and might get a little bit tiring after a while, but the thing is, we're not here about being tired or being boring. We want results, and with that kind of practice, results guaranteed. The key here is to be patient and consistent. So don't give up. Don't give up. Train, 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 because the more you train, the more things are gonna go more natural afterwards. So cool. Now that we have worked our way through developing this finger agility and the finger articulation, let's try to apply this to the actual study. So meaning respecting the tempo, dynamics, and the rhythm. So see, with that kind of practice that I showed you, that systematical work, when you play this exercise through, maybe in a slower tempo, you're gonna feel that it's more accurate and it's more regular. And also you're gonna be more in rhythm, which is my next point now. So the last thing that I want to mention here in this exercise is the rhythm. For some of you, it might look a little bit confusing. So on the score, with these little breaks and so on. But it's actually not complicated at all. Each measure has 4 beats, right? You can either count this in 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, para-da-da-dum, 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 or you can count in 2, which is also known as alla breve. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, if it's easier for you, you can count into 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Yara-da-da-dum, para-da-da-dum, para-da-da-dum, para-da-da-dum. So it's always on the first and the third beat, quarter notes that you play, okay? But okay, let's say if you're having problems with rhythm, let's say if you're really having problems with rhythm to play this in the beat, well, then the metronome is going to be your best friend. So what we want to do next with the metronome is to put the quarter note on a slower tempo. So let's say ya ta 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 tam, ya pa 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 pam. Let's try this. Good, if this is getting easy for you, if you're dominating this, then you can put the tempo higher. By the way, that was on 60 beats per minute. Now let's say instead of 60, let's put 80. Ya-ta-ta-ta-tam, pa-pa-pa-pa-pam. And so on. Let me switch this off. If this gets even easier for you, well then instead of 80, let's put 120. Let's put this challenge now, which is allegro. And so on. We can even go further. Yada-da-da-dum, ta-da-da-da-dum. And now we are on the actual tempo, which is vivace. 140. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on. Let me switch this thing off. This is quite annoying. But anyway, the metronome is your best friend. And that's it. It's not so difficult, right? And you have learned Gruppetto. It's always handy to have it in your hands. But okay, this was really like an etude, right? What you can try just to have fun with yourself is instead of playing this ta-da-da-da-dum, because like in musical works, like in Haydn, see, you can do the same here. So you can apply this. So just for fun, you can try this. So anyway, that's it for today. The next Feuillard, which is gonna be study number 36, is gonna be a study for the bow. If you found this lesson useful and you're liking in general what I'm doing, hit that thumbs up, helps the algorithm, and subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. And with that, I want to thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.